Hello, welcome to QUT News.
Hello.
Angry university students took to Brisbane streets protesting Canberra's cuts to higher education. They rallied outside the convention centre where the Prime Minister was attending a luncheon.
The group started small but quickly grew, and their message was loud and clear. The Students' Union says young Australians are hurting. With cuts to penalty rates and a lack of affordable accommodation, education cuts are a tipping point.
I think we need to show that, students are not a group that can be picked on, that, students are not a group that is going to sit down and take being vilified and demonised. We are going to stand up and fight back.
The federal budget will slice $2.8 billion from higher education funding. It will also lower the HECS help repayment threshold and up university fees.
And we don't earn much money as it is as a full-time uni student, and I'd rather not have to pay more.
Everyone should be able to go to university, not those who have the most money.
The Greens say the budget is out of touch because an investment in students is an investment in the future.
People go to university to further themselves and to contribute to the economy. It's just ridiculous that this government thinks that that is somehow a bad idea.
This protest is just one of many, part of a national campaign catalysing students across the country. The Prime Minister didn't face the crowd, he had other business to attend to. Malcolm Turnbull is touring Queensland to spruik the federal budget, focusing on business and infrastructure.
We are certainly looking at Cross River Rail. In fact, we've provided $10 million to the state government to enable them to do a proper business case.
No mention of the students demanding action. Lily Nothling, QUT News.
Alarming new figures show a 480% increase in the presence of meth-amphetamine in Brisbane's wastewater. Now community groups are leading the fight against the ice epidemic.
Recovered and contributing, former ice addict Andrea Simmons now dedicates her life to educating communities about the dangers of the drug. She's seeking to reduce methamphetamine use through education and prevention.
By the grace of God, I'm alive, and I'm going to take what I've been through and I'm going to help as many people as I can.
Andrea has now joined forces with Logan City Council, using a successful American program targeted at schools and young people.
Not even once. That is actually our message. So we go into the schools and it's like, how many times, kids? By the end of it, not even once.
Even sports stars are getting on board.
They're in the rugby league systems, and they've got money to pay for these sort of drugs.
They're keen to stress ice addiction is not a problem unique to low socioeconomic areas.
It's a problem that is right across community, and I think just some areas of community, because of their lifestyle, are able to mask a little bit better.
More than 500,000 Australians over the age of 14 have taken to ice in the past year. Communities across Queensland, including Logan, are leading the way in fighting the ice epidemic. A Logan Ice Forum will take place later this month. Christopher Anderson, QUT News.
There's now another reason to quit smoking. The strongest evidence gathered yet reveals smokers are significantly more likely to develop skin cancer.
The research began in 2010. It followed Queenslanders aged between 40 and 69.
So we were looking at a population of people who were at risk of skin cancer but had not had cancer. Some of them were smokers, some of them were non-smokers, and we followed them up for 3 years to see who developed skin cancer and who didn't.
It found smokers are about 2.5 times more likely to develop squamous cell carcinomas, or SCC. Almost 500,000 Aussies will be affected by skin cancer. That's the highest incidence in the world. Exposure to the sun is the single biggest cause.
But if you're exposed to the sun, as you are in Queensland, and you smoke, then your risks are higher than other Queenslanders who don't smoke.
I'd say that's surprising. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, I wouldn't have picked it.
More research is needed to understand why smokers are only at risk to the SCC and not other skin cancers.
While previous studies have linked smoking to skin cancer, Professor Whiteman's study is the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, with almost 20,000 Queensland participants.
The good news is the risk of developing the cancer drops off as soon as you quit smoking. Marissa Kulawine, QUT News.
The health of Queensland coal miners will be more closely monitored for the deadly black lung disease, and everyone who works at the coalface will be tested.
21 Queensland miners have been diagnosed with the disease in the past 2 years, prompting the government to act. The state government detailed how the new accreditation and standards will come into effect by the end of this year.
We have to eliminate this disease in our resource community.
New dust monitoring systems will be installed with the results available to the public on the government's website.
You can never mine coal without any dust exposure, but all you can do is minimise it, and the lower the amount of dust.
The new lung function test will be compulsory, and recent miners' X-ray were checked in Australia and again in the United States.
Almost there. Keep getting all of that air out until there's nothing left.
Although new standards are implemented, the minister says early detection is key to stopping the progress of the disease. Andy Lang, QUT News.
The tax office is hunting down hundreds of tax-dodging bikies. The ATO has issued notices to almost 200 outlaw motorcycle gang members for failing to pay. 11 had debts totalling nearly $4 million. Last financial year, the ATO recovered just under $6 million.
Victorian police have been given the green light to lay charges against Cardinal George Pell over child sex allegations. But Australia's most senior Catholic cannot be forced to return home.
Cardinal Pell's long been a controversial figure. He's been accused of sexually abusing up to 10 boys during his time as priest in Ballarat and also as Archbishop of Melbourne. Even though legal authorities have told police they can lay charges, it could be a while before he'd have to face court.
These cases are very, very complicated, historic child sexual abuse cases, when you have multiple complainants like you do in this case.
And Australia doesn't have an extradition treaty with Vatican City, where Pell lives, so he'd have to volunteer to come home. The Salt Creek attacker has been sentenced to 22 years for kidnapping and assaulting 2 backpackers in South Australia last February. Roman Hines attacked his victims with a knife and hammer before mowing one down with his 4-wheel drive. The judge described him as gross, pathetic and utterly depraved. And former Socceroos and Brisbane Roar player Mitch Nichols has been charged with cocaine possession. He was allegedly caught with 3 small bags containing white powder during a drug sweep at a Sydney nightclub on Saturday morning. Kate Lorencic, QUT News.
AFL legend Lou Richards has been farewelled at a state funeral in Melbourne. A who's who of players filled St Paul's Cathedral, and outside, fans packed Federation Square to watch a live stream of the service.
Lou Richards was a wisecracking larrikin known as Louis the Lip, and the Lip would have relished the sellout crowd for his final appearance. Richards played 250 games for his beloved Pies and captained them to the 1953 Premiership. Among the mourners today, Collingwood President Eddie Maguire and the AFL's Chief Executive Gil McLachlan. Richard's daughter led the tributes.
I would like to thank you all so much from the bottom of my heart.
Following the service, the hearse did one last lap around Victoria Park, Collingwood's old home ground, as well as the MCG and the club's new headquarters. Richards was inducted into the AFL Hall of Fame in 1996. He died last week, aged 94. Laura English, QUT News.
The Royal Flying Doctor Service has honoured those who work behind the scenes to keep the organisation airborne. It coincides with the Flying Doctor's 89th anniversary.
The award nominees and service members gathered for a ceremony at Brisbane Airport. This year, Stephen Skerr was presented with the Local Hero Award for his fundraising efforts.
If you're around out there and something does happen to happen, you can be relying on to get professional help quick. So
the Flying Doctors provide a 24-hour emergency service able to reach any location in Australia within 2 hours. And it's constantly expanding its operations, now coordinating clinic programs.
On a daily basis, our doctor, our nurse and an aircraft and a pilot will fly out to a remote community and provide a full day service.
However, the demand for their services remains strong. Last year, the RFDS aircraft fleet flew the equivalent of 34 trips to the moon and back, or more than 600 flights around the Earth. People like Stephen Skerr play a vital role in helping fund staff and the latest life-saving equipment.
The growth in the number of patients that we attend to has grown threefold.
And this is the newest member of the 19-strong fleet operating in Queensland. The twin-engine Beechcraft King Air costs $13 million and has superior speed and distance capabilities. Phoebe Powell, QUT News.
A Melbourne Moggy is in the running to be named the world's longest cat. 3-year-old Omar weighs in at 14 kilos, 3 times the size of your average house cat. The owner recorded Omar's length at 127 centimetres. The current Guinness record holder is Ludo from the United Kingdom. He's almost 10 centimetres shorter than Omar.
Recapping our main story, uni students stage a noisy protest outside a luncheon attended by the Prime Minister. They're angry at funding cuts announced earlier this month.
And still to come, President Trump says it's okay to share secrets with Russia.
Continuing QUT News, there are new bombshells for US President Donald Trump. A memo from the man he sacked as FBI director suggests the president asked James Comey to close an investigation. Comey was heading the probe into ties between former White House National Security Advisor Michael Flynn and Russia. His memo raises questions about interference with a federal investigation. And Donald Trump has taken to Twitter to defend disclosing classified information to Russia. Even his own party is now saying the White House tumult should stop.
Behind his keyboard, Trump hits back. He said he had the absolute right to share information at the White House meeting with Russia, and that it was all part of the fight against terrorism.
Well, we had a very, very successful meeting with the Foreign Minister of Russia.
But senators on Capitol Hill aren't convinced.
Russia's not our friend, and the president needs to exercise discipline when he's talking to leaders.
Well, I think he owes an explanation to the American people, and we need to hear it.
While the president can legally say whatever he wants to whoever he wants, he's now being called upon to disclose full transcripts of his conversations to the intelligence committees.
If the president may have put national security and our intelligence operations at risk, Congress has the right to know about it.
But one message from senators is clear.
I think it would be helpful to have less drama emanating from the White House.
Lily Nothling, QUT News.
The White House went into lockdown after a person attempted to jump over a barrier. The barrier is located along the north fence. The US Secret Service says a suspect is now in custody. The incident came just hours after the Turkish president paid a visit to the White House. Dozens of journalists protested in Mexico City after a well-respected journalist was killed. There have already been a spike in attacks against the media this year.
Media workers rallied at the Angel of Independence Monument in Mexico City in support for Pierre Javier Valdez Cardenas, who was murdered after assailants opened fire on his car. Reporters repeated a message Valdez wrote on social media last month. "They're killing us in Mexico, no to silence." Protesters also held pictures of other journalists who'd been murdered. Valdez had been recognised for his extensive coverage of crime in Mexico and spoke publicly about the dangers of working in the media. This journalist says the murder is sending a clear message that violence can't be discussed without consequences. Valdez is the 5th reporter to be killed since March, making Mexico one of the deadliest countries for journalists. Journalists say members of the media are tired of burying their peers, and it's time to stop ignoring injustice for journalists. Kate Lorencic, QUT News.
Campaigning is underway in Iran for the upcoming presidential election. The tight contest will determine whether Iran's re-engagement with the world broadens or comes to a halt.
Hundreds of Iranians rally for President Hassan Rouhani ahead of Friday's election. Seeking a second term, the moderate president remains a narrow favourite in the tense and increasingly tight race. Rouhani says the government must think about the people's progress and not deceive them. His primary challenger is hardline conservative cleric Ebrahim Raisi. He received a campaign boost when the Tehran mayor withdrew from the race on Monday, backing Raisi. He says the current government has brought 4 years of poor performance and that Iran doesn't need foreign help. But some fear a Raisi win would slide Iran back into theocratic rule and isolate the country abroad. Tamika Sito, QUT News.
A World Heritage listed island off South America sounds pristine, but it's washed up almost 38 million items of rubbish. Now a young Dutchman says he may have the solution.
Henderson Island in the South Pacific Gyre has the highest levels of plastic rubbish in the world. The North Pacific area is known as the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. Henderson is receiving leakages from that system. But a young inventor has dropped out of university to start the ocean cleanup.
I was 16 years old and I was diving in Greece and I realized I came across more plastic bags than fish. And then I thought, well, why aren't we cleaning this up?
He plans to clear 50% of the debris in 5 years.
Instead of going after the plastic, we let the plastic come to us, using very long floating barriers, which sort of float around, to let the ocean clean itself by using the natural ocean currents in our advantage.
The plastic will then be brought back to shore and recycled. Critics have raised concerns for marine life, such as plankton. The project has currently raised $31 million and will deploy the first floating barrier by 2018. Zarisha Bradley, QUT News.
A 14-year-old boy is lucky to be alive after a home security system captured an erratic driver losing control of their SUV. The driver smashed into a parked car before ploughing into the boy and then continued without stopping. Despite his ordeal, the boy only sustained a few scratches and bruises.
The 70th Cannes Film Festival is being marked by tension between theatres and streaming service Netflix. After the festival, 2 of the films premiering will only be viewable online.
Netflix has 2 of the hottest movies in contention for the coveted Palme d'Or. The service has refused to arrange distribution across France, meaning films such as Okja, starring Tilda Swinton and Jake Gyllenhaal, will not be seen on the big screen after their Cannes premiere. The film festival's director says everyone should have access to watch the films.
Cannes is a film festival in theatres, and for the territory of France, we would like to have all the films competing in Cannes available in theatres.
The festival has effectively barred Netflix submissions after this year's event, so that any future competition films will have to get a theatre release.
There is a new world which is coming. We say there is a new world, we say we have to keep also the old world.
Jury members were snapped arriving at a Cannes hotel last night ahead of today's opening. Among them were Spanish director Pedro Almodovar and Hollywood actors Jessica Chastain and Will Smith. Charlotte Tully, QUT News.
In sport, Jonathan Thurston's shoulder injury is still causing problems. He's in doubt for the NRL match against the Sharks and Origin 1.
JT joined his teammates on the flight south to Sydney. He's eager to play both Cronulla and Origin.
He's improving. Whether or not he improves enough to play this weekend, we'll wait and see.
The Maroons and Blues will announce Origin teams on Monday. Nick Kyrgios withdrew from the Italian Open with a hip injury, casting doubt on his French Open chances. But he finally has a coach, former world number 4 Sebastian Grozen.
And Maria Sharapova hasn't been offered a wild card for the French Open. The two-time champion's name is nowhere to be seen on the website. The snub comes just a month after she returned from a 15-month doping ban. Zarisha Bradley, QUT News.
Ben Brew has all the weather details next.
And what would you pay for these mismatched earrings?
Hello, time to take a look at the weather. There is a flood warning in place for northern Queensland, with widespread rainfall expected to reach up to 400 millimetres by the end of the week. Around the southeast, it was cloudy in Brisbane with a top of 25, some cloud cover on the Gold Coast, and sunny for Ipswich and the Sunshine Coast. Around the nation, Thursday, showers in Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, a cold start in the nation's capital, 2 degrees, and sunny in Perth with a top of 25. Back to Queensland, a high-pressure system is causing increased chances of rain, showers and thunderstorms across the state. Right now, the heaviest falls are in the north, where temps are reaching the high 20s, but expect some showers in both Bundaberg and Longreach. On Moreton Bay, winds will be easterly turning southeasterly at 10 to 15 knots. The sun will rise at 6:22. And if you're thinking of heading to the coast tomorrow, showers are expected on both Gold and Sunny coasts with tops of 24. In Brisbane, expect wet, wet and more wet. Showers tomorrow, rain on Friday and thunderstorms Saturday. That's the weather for now. Back to you, Elisabeth.
Thanks, Ben. Finally, a pair of earrings has sold for $77 million, making them the most expensive in the world. The mismatched pink and blue diamonds have been dubbed the most important earrings ever offered at auction.
The earrings, Apollo and Artemis, went to a private buyer at Sotheby's Magnificent Jewels and Noble Jewels sale in Geneva.
$13,350,000.
The pair of diamonds were offered separately, with Apollo, the 14.54 carat blue diamond, going for just over $57 million.
To the telephone bidder on my right at 37 million francs.
The buyer picked up Artemis, the matching pink earring, for a further $20 million, bringing the total to just over $77 million.
The total for the earrings is a world record 57 million francs. They're remaining together as earrings, which is absolutely wonderful.
The impressive sale comes just after a pink diamond went for $95 million in Hong Kong last month. Laura English, QUT News.
That brings you up to date with QUT News. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye.